Adesanya versus Blachowicz is Adesanya is the person you simply fall in love with the second you see him. That's so brave of him to share this. This tip is actually very helpful. So hello guys, today we're gonna talk about Adesanya, Israel Adesanya, and his tips, tricks, mental things that he shared in one of his interviews. Actually, it was a podcast, Joe Rogan podcast. You guys, I love Joe Rogan podcasts so much. I think I watch every single one of them. And of course, there is a fight this Sunday. Sunday, right? Yeah, March 7th. On Sunday coming up. It's going to be Adesanya versus Blachowicz. I hope I pronounced this name correctly. And I actually rewatched his podcast. I think there were 2 podcasts. And honestly, like the second I saw this dude, Adesanya I'm talking about, I like literally fell in love, kind of, because this guy has so much energy. This guy has just so much, it seems like, at least, right, from the outside, so much desire to live, and he loves life, it seems like, and it's very rare that someone is so energetic and just happy about life and just like seems like so kind of like focused into it and not really trying to, zone out and not really be present in his life. So he has this very high energy very high energy about life and approach, even though he shared in his in this interview, in this podcast, that he did suffer from depression. And guess what he has done? He went to see therapist. He wasn't like acting like manly, like too manly, which would not have made sense, because he would have lost his career if he didn't see that therapist at the time when he needed at the time he really needed to see therapist. But we're not gonna talk about this at the very beginning. We're gonna talk about it a little bit later in this video, so make sure to stick till the end and not miss all the tips and tricks and just like tips to know when you need a therapist, right? But first of all, let's talk about him. And the first thing that I noticed about him, which is a great hint of success, like half of the podcast in, I've realized that pretty much all they've been talking about was boxing, jiu-jitsu, MMA, and that's just like says a lot about a person, right? That says that he is really into what he is doing, because most people, even though sometimes people love what they do, right? A lot of people just enjoy, like, I don't want to say a lot of people enjoy other things, because I'm sure he enjoys other things, but the amount of time, the amount of attention he puts into this sport simply because he loves it. It seems like he's almost obsessed with UFC, MMA. He loves it so much. He watches other people, other fighters. He talks a lot about his own matches, and that's honestly kind of the hint on whether or not whether you love what you do. That's how you can identify. And I'm not saying you're supposed to be like Adesanya and talk about like whatever you do like all the time, right? But just kind of also like this podcast was about him and mostly him and his fighting. But he did like talk about it like all the time. And you can tell he loves it. And he loves every second of it. He pays so much attention. He pays so much attention to his practice, to practice of other people. And he really is into this sport. So where your attention goes is basically your future, is how your future self shows you that it's trying to manifest itself. I think I shared this idea in one of my previous videos about a tennis player, Iga Swiatek, and this is actually not my idea. This is something that Carl Gustav Jung, a psychiatrist and psychologist, well, actually it seems like if you read his books, he was mostly like a philosopher. But yeah, this is what he wrote in one of his books, like where your attention goes is basically how your future self is trying to manifest itself, right? And his entire attention is on this sport, is everything he talks about seems to just to end up with what he does, and that's just so amazing and nice to see a person like that do what he loves to do. It seems like he is in his element and very natural and organic. Having said that, it sounds like he has never had problems, and obviously we cannot judge a person by just one podcast or interview. But another thing that I admire about him is how open he is in this podcast and how much he shares. He shares so many things he has struggled with, so many things that just really give you this great insight into who he is as a person, what it took him to become who he has become, his entire journey. And he actually shares that how after his UFC debut, he felt depressed. This check came in, right? So he earned a good amount of money. He quote unquote said nice check came in. So that was I guess nice amount of money for him. And he became depressed. And what he did is he went to see the therapist because, as he said, quote unquote, there's no book on how to be a celebrity, right? Which also kind of hints at the fact that he actually read a lot of books probably on psychology. This is a guess, I don't know, but just the fact that he said that, or probably he just said that because I don't know, but I assumed simply from him saying that he read a lot of books. But that was such a great move to go and see a therapist, and a good certified therapist, to help him out. And as he has said, therapists did help him out. And the next time he has experienced this great wave of fame, or just being well known, fame, I guess. Adesanya is like a famous dude now, right? Obviously. 4.4 million followers on Instagram. Yeah, it's insane. So he was more prepared. He had all these tools in his pocket that he really used. He said exactly that he eased into his routine once he got back after the next fight. So he was very well prepared. He realized the importance of the routine, the importance of keeping people around you that are really help you stay sane. Because sometimes when I assume I'm not that famous yet, right? But sometimes there's fans and people that admire your work, right? It just sometimes seems like you seem so out of touch with the reality, and it seems like you're daydreaming instead of living, because that just doesn't seem real, I assume. I don't know, but that's how I assume he felt. And so from this podcast, as far as I understood, he realized the importance of his routine after going to this therapist. And another thing that I also want to touch on, and there are so many things and tips he shared on mental health, on just dealing with UFC, not dealing with UFC, but being in the UFC, being a fighter, transitioning from jiu-jitsu and boxing to UFC, to MMA, right? So many great tips that it would have taken me an hour to talk about them, and to really speculate on what he has done and what he shared, actually, what he did say he has done. So, psychologically, mentally, to get himself in a place where he is as confident as he is. But actually, now that I'm thinking about it, let's make another video on this topic, and I'm gonna share his other tips and other things that he shared in multiple of his interviews, press conferences, and all this type of stuff. But yeah, he is probably one of my favorite athletes, and it's just so amazing to see someone who loves what he does so much, who loves talking about it, obviously loves doing it. He is such a hard-working dude. He has this grit, tenacity, and he is 31 and he keeps going, and it's just so amazing to see that, to see him manifest. He actually talks a lot about this visualization, and we're going to talk about all those great tips in my next video. So go to my channel, watch my other videos. Don't forget to click the like button and subscribe, which is very important. Click the bell button, click all the buttons, hit dislike button if you don't like my video and if you don't like this channel, I guess. But anyways, thank you so much for watching this video till the end, and I'll see you in the next one.